At this point, we're going to use CSS to apply some fonts, and I'm going to start with the default font for the whole page. So I'm going to attach that again to the body tag, which I currently have highlighted in my CSS designer panel here. So I'm just going to go over and uncheck Show Set and go over to the font section here. And let's see here. So for font family, I'll show you a couple of options here. We do have our preset lists here, but if you go to Manage Fonts, you can make your own set. It does depend what you have on your computer. But for example, if I wanted to have a font that had Arial as its first choice, for example, I could go over to Custom Font Stacks and just make sure I have Arial on my computer here. So I'll just scroll down and find it. There we are. Highlight it, and you just transfer it over to the font list this way. And if I wanted to have a backup for that, let's say, well, just for the fun of it, I'll say Avenir Book. Click that. That would be the second one. And let's say those are my two choices. Click Done. And those will now appear in my list when I go to Font Family. There they are right at the top. Okay. So I think for the default for this page, though, I'm going to choose Consolus. And if you don't see it render, I did see it render there, you can always go to Live View. And it does give you a more accurate representation of what your font will look like. Okay. I am going to switch back to design mode at this point. But what I've done there is I've made a default font. If I just show my set here, starts with Consolus. If that's not available, it will go to Andali Mono, and then over to Lucida Grand, and so on. Okay, so that will be my default font for the page. And again, it's attached to the body tag. So I think I'm going to style the H1 now. So I'm just going to go over here and click inside of the H1 and create a new selector for that. And I'm just going to make it more basic. This is a compound selector here, starting with the body tag, but I'm going to just delete everything but the H1, hit my Enter key, and start to apply styles. So I'm going to turn off Show Set. And here, I think I'm going to use the Gotham one. So let's go over here to our fonts. And I'll just choose Gotham, Helvetica New as the second choice. And I'll give it a font weight, or rather a style. I'll formally style it normal. And we'll give it a weight of 400's kind of average, so I'll give it the 400. And we're going to use M's as our unit size. So I'm going to go with a font size of 2 M's. So I'll start by choosing M's and then change this from a 0 to a 2. There's a few ways of changing that number. I'm just typing it in here and hitting my Enter key. And I can see up here what that size is. And I'm going to go with a line height as well. That's the division or the space above and below the line. And we'll set that to 1 M. So I'll just choose M's. It was below the projector there, but 1 M, and I'll hit my Enter key for that. Okay, and it just creates that even space on either side. Okay, so that's for my H1. Oh, the other thing, actually, one more thing. I just want to have it centered. So anything H1 will center on the page. So that's text align down here, and we click center. There we go. I definitely should do a save all. I can see my CSS style sheet has an asterisk, meaning it has not yet been saved with the latest changes. So I'm just going to go save all under my file menu. Here we go. And as I clicked on that, you can actually see your CSS style sheet. And this is the one that I just currently added. We also added the fonts here just a little earlier in our body. I am going to go back to my HTML source code here. Okay. So again, you can see where we're at here, and it's not a lot of code, is there? Okay, so let's deal with the H2 tag now, and this was tagged with the H2, so I'm just going to click in there, generate a new selector. Again, I'll just minimize this just to keep it as H2. Hit my Enter key and start to style that. So let's see here. I think on this one, I'll actually go with that new design I did with the, or that new list with the Arial as the default. So under Font Family, Arial, Avenir Book, And again, the font style, I will formally declare it as normal. And for the font weight, we'll go again with that 400, which is your basic average weight for these fonts. And for font size, I was toying with this a little earlier. I'm going to use M's. I had determined 1.5, but let's see what 2 looks like. 2 M's, hit my enter key there. Okay, yeah, and I do want it to be a little less prominent than that line, so I'm going to go to 1.5. So I'll highlight that 2 and replace it with a 1.5. Hit my enter key, and there we go. And I will center that as well. So text align, center, save all. Okay. And now let's deal with the footer down here. So I'm going to click inside of the footer. I could also click it here, I guess, if you want to highlight it. I'm just going to click in the design view and generate one more selector here. And again, body, space footer, and I'll just make it footer. Hit my enter key, and let's see. For the footer, we're just going to use a setting on the font. We're not going to actually assign a font, so it will also assume the default font of the page. But I will go over to the fonts and set the size to, let's see here, font size to what's called small. And you can see how tiny that gets. And once again, I will center it on the page. There we go. And that's all I'm going to do for now for my text CSS settings at this point. So we've got a default setting for our page, and we've got a setting for our H1, our H2 tags, and our footer tag. And I definitely need to do a save all. So if I want a better view of this, again, I can switch over to live mode and have a look here. And of course, you can also go to real-time preview, which is the same as hitting the little icon I previously used, but I'm just going to go over here to Firefox. And there we go. And I'll just shrink my browser to fit inside here. And there it is. Okay, so that's what we have so far.